The following is a conversation with Lisa Surella, Chief Merchant for Bealls. Bealls has over 100 merchants who are responsible for buying the various product categories, and they all report up to Lisa. So Lisa has a very big job. Lisa reports to Tian Doyle, president of Bealls Inc., and Tian reports to me, Matt Bealls, CEO and legacy host. I hope that you learned something about Lisa, about Bealls, and about merchandising, and that you enjoy the following conversation with Lisa Surella, Chief Merchant for Bealls. Lisa.
Matt,
how's it going? Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, very nice to have you here.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you
Cool.
for inviting me.
Cool. Yeah, this is going to be fun. I think the audience will really learn a lot from you. I think that there's always kind of this mystery about what it's like to be a merchant, like to be a buyer, to be somebody who is the person who's in charge of getting all the product to the store. And so you can, by being here, you can kind of, resolve some of those mysteries for people, I think.
I will try.
Yeah. Put a name and a face to a job, and that way people know that when they have a complaint, they can call you right up.
Absolutely. We'll post my cell phone number. You can text any complaints or positives, right?
Yeah, that too. Okay. Yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself first?
I'm Lisa Surella. I'm the Chief Merchandising Officer here at Bealls, and I'm very excited to be here. Fairly new at the chief merchant role.
Mm-hmm.
Been in merchandising my entire career.
Yep.
But this is fairly new, the last 8 months or so.
Great. How long have you been in merchandising in total, if you don't know?
Oh, that would speak to my age.
Oh, okay. Got it.
20 years.
20 years. Okay. All right. Excellent.
Since I got out of college. Well, actually, I did jobs when I was in school, in college, whether it was stock rooms or I did some planogram work. If you know what a planogram is, not everybody might know, but that was literally taping labels onto shelves in a regional store with, 2 face outs of Ajax. It was very, very boring, but it got me into a store, and there's always something to be learned with any of those experiences.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Good. Okay. Yeah. So when you say you're Chief Merchant of Bealls,
yes,
just so the audience is totally aware, everybody knows we just went through this massive rebrand.
Yes, we did.
So do you want to explain? That?
Sure. We had for Bealls, which is our off-price banner in the organization, we were operating under Bealls Outlet and Burke's Outlet, so 2 different banners, just because we didn't have the rights to the Bealls name outside of the states of Florida, Arizona, and Georgia. And that worked well. It was fine. But we saw the opportunity when we could convert all of our stores to Bealls or Bealls Outlet to, at the same point, say, do we really want the outlet on the brand, on our signs, on our store? The name is really a misnomer. It does imply that maybe we have secondary goods, or goods that were possibly transferred from our Bealls store at the time. So really probably led a lot of people to believe we had inferior product, which is not the case.
Right.
We buy everything from the market. We don't take any secondary goods. We don't transfer clearance goods from another store. And we had heard through some of our customers that it did, in fact, imply sort of cheap or secondary.
Right.
So we did a rather bold move very quickly. We were able to do that. We can pivot as a private company and move quickly, and said, you know what, we're going to rip that Band-Aid off, and we're going to convert to Bealls across our off-price banner. And at the same point in time, we looked at our 68 Bealls stores, our old department stores, if you will, and we rebranded those as Bealls Florida, which was in sync with their e-com brand as well.
Right. Yeah, you can't have 2 chains called Bealls.
That would be confusing.
Yeah,
right?
that
So
would be more confusing.
Bealls and Bealls Florida. And so far, everybody seems clear in our market anyway. Our vendors do. They seem to get it. And everyone seems to concur that removing outlet made a lot of sense.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so Bealls, you're the Chief Merchant of Bealls. Bealls
Right.
used to be Burke's Outlet and Bealls Outlet. And you've been the Chief Merchant for Bealls for how long now?
Since beginning of March.
Beginning of March.
You changed my life dramatically. Yes.
Okay.
February 22nd at I think
2:22.
11:30 in the morning was when Tian Doyle gave me that news. Very
cool.
exciting.
Very cool. Yeah. And prior to that, you had been, well, why don't you actually, instead of working on the backwards, why don't you start at, if you could, early on in your career?
Sure. So I decided in high school I wanted to know what I was going to be, what I wanted to do, and I spoke to some family members and heard about buyer. Had no idea really what it was, but once I heard them talk about it, I thought that's what I want to do. I want to be a buyer. I ended up going to Lehigh University, which is a very good engineering school. It also is a good business school, so I got a marketing degree and not a merchandising degree. And after that, was bent on, again, did some college jobs in stock rooms or whatnot. Wanted to get into buying. So I did what most people did back then, 20 years ago or a little bit longer, and went into department stores. So I interviewed for training programs at 3 major department stores. And interestingly enough, I was accepted to none of them, which I think is kind of an interesting factoid now that I'm sitting here as chief merchant of Bealls. But I think it speaks to resilience, which I think is very important in retail, and also to the fact that careers are often not linear. You know, it's okay if you have to maybe take a step sideways or backwards sometimes. Everything isn't always just a nice escalator going up. So for me, I ended up going into an assistant department manager role at a department store. So you're punching a time clock, an hourly job. My father was very concerned. My annual salary was less than my tuition. So
I was just thinking Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team. So,
me and Michael Jordan.
His father was very concerned too. So you got good company.
Right. I told him that things would get better.
Right.
But at first he did the math and said, you are literally making less than I paid for your annual tuition. But things got better. I did work my way up to buyer in department stores, did that for many years, and ended up at a major department store for 17 years. And I became eventually chief merchant over apparel. So not over the entire store, but over all of the ladies' apparel. So that was a large job. I moved on from there to Mass, to Walmart. And when they had a New York office, did that for several years. That was a great transition for me because I moved from the rarefied air of department store and realized really how many people in this country really are pressed economically, and that department store shopping really is rarefied air, and probably got out of department store business just at the right time. That was right around, it was at 2009, things were getting very tough.
Right.
I got the offer to go to Walmart, and that was just a phenomenal change for me to get out of the department store arena, learn about value, learn about a very different culture in terms of an organization. And then from there, went on to, once they closed that office, I went into specialty for a few years, but then learned off-price at another retailer.
Walmart closed the New York office?
They did.
Okay.
I was there 3 years. The business was very good. But there was a lot of concerns about having a presence in New York at that time, even though our business was good. And they did ask me to move to Bentonville, but my family is based in the Northeast, and at that point, not something that I wanted to do. So I moved on to other, again, specialty, and then into off-price at one of our competitors.
Gotcha.
And really kind of cut my teeth there and learned off-price there. And then 6 years ago was recruited to Bealls.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, do you not want to name the competitor that you worked at, Brian?
Starts with a B.
Okay, got it.
It's Burlington.
Okay, yeah.
And
gotcha.
I was a divisional merchandise manager there. So buyers reported to me directly.
Yep.
And that was phenomenal. I spent the first year just shadowing my buyers, asking them questions. I knew I didn't know the model. I loved it right away. The speed of it, the ambiguity of it, just how flexible you can be, how you need to be. And I just loved it. And I've learned something at every model I've been in. There's always something to be learned. But just once you're in off price, if it's meant for you, you find it gets in your blood, and you're really passionate about it.
Right. Yeah. So that off price model, which we should say that the off price world is very quickly becoming the on price world.
Yes,
It's just true. Kind of the price now. It's kind of
true.
what people are expecting. It's just value with regards to whatever they buy. But so Burlington was, so you learned that model at Burlington. Obviously, Bealls has a very similar model. Bealls Florida is a slightly different model, but the Bealls business is very similar. And so that, I'm sure you stepped in right away and you were ready to go as you transitioned into Bealls Outlet at that time. And you took over which areas again?
I had ladies apparel.
All ladies apparel as a GM.
As a GM.
Yeah, good.
And yes, I was ready to go, but I think anytime you transition, one thing I've learned, I have a third rule. Bring a third of what you know with you. Keep a third sort of on a back burner in case you need it, and forget a third. Because if you go in saying, I can do this, I have all the answers, and you don't take time to learn the guest, the customer, that company, and that's a quick way to fail, I've found. I've seen it time and again. And I think it's because people feel they need to make a difference right away. They need to come in and prove that they get it, that they can take action right away, and they don't take the time to to ask questions and to learn the business and learn the customer and the organization. So we're not patient in retail, so we want to move quickly. But I tried to make sure, especially the Florida market, that's something that sitting in the Northeast as a retailer, company after company, we really floundered in Florida. One company, we closed our Florida stores. We just took our toys and went home and said, we look ridiculous. We can't compete. We tried. We were spending so much time and energy, and we didn't have that many stores in Florida. They were great locations, and we just said, stop wasting our energy. We're not getting it. So it was interesting to come to a Florida-based retailer who obviously really gets Florida, and now I get it. It's not that hard.
Right.
But when you're sitting in the Northeast and you fly down and, you're looking at heavy wool sweaters with dog sleds across them, and and then you go to your competition and they have a nice balance of what people actually would want to wear.
Yeah.
Or you get so silly you think everything has to have a flamingo or an anchor on it.
Right.
And then you're over indexed that way.
How much of your business is Florida now?
Well, it's about 45%.
Okay. And so you've just we have
I'm
just
and
expanded.
that's kind of warm. I'm thinking of our warm region, but that's primarily Florida.
Primarily Florida, right, right. Yeah, and so we have the Florida business, we have the Sun Belt business, and then we're just expanding into the northern business, which we call cold. And what has that transition kind of been like for you to because you're kind of going back to your roots, I guess.
And that's a lot of fun
Yeah.
because we have a mix on the team of people who were born and bred in Florida or at Bealls, and transplants who many of them have been in companies that were based in the Northeast. And we see there's an opportunity as we move more north, if you will, where the climate is colder, and we're underpenetrated in the categories that would make sense there. So I keep telling everyone, just kind of dust off. Remember, we didn't know Florida.
Right.
Now we get Florida. And I remember what we knew up there. Kind of, you have to remember how much outerwear and sweaters and cold weather accessories we need. And we're really making a lot of good progress, but it's a balance. And the beauty will be we're going to get all three climate zones right, or righter. That's my own word. I made it up, righter, because it's hard to be right.
All kinds of words in retail that we make up.
Righter than our competition, because the Florida piece is really hard to crack for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We struggled even at Walmart with all the science and logistics expertise that they had. We still struggled when it came down to particularly apparel in the Florida market.
Yeah, cool. So what was the transition like as you came to Bealls?
The transition was great. It was, I think, like many transplants, particularly from other off-pricers, you almost want to go into put people into a debriefing tank. Our culture is very, very different, and I find I felt like a fish going into water. But I do see as some people transfer over to us, they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. They have a kind of a waiting for this to not be real. And there's no magic. We're not perfect, but we're driven. We're going to get results. We are challenging, but we're nice people. And it's sometimes hard to take the time to be nice about a request or a question, or take the time to explain and communicate. And I think that's what the difference is we're willing to take the time to explain, to communicate, to ask people how a family member might be who's ill or something's going on in their life. When I interviewed for my role here, or my GMM role, and I interviewed with Tian Doyle, she had mentioned to me how important it is to her how people feel when they walk into the building, that she thinks about that kind of that, listen, work is work. Not everyone is jumping out of bed to come to work, but we want people to be energized and not to be dreading the building they're walking into. And that meant a lot to me. So I think I transitioned fairly well, fairly quickly. I loved it, and have spent a lot of time recruiting some good people who have come to us, and I think that's a great thing. We have a fabulous team. A lot of them have come from other organizations, and they feel the same way.
Okay, so you felt like you were a fish going into water as opposed to
yes.
fish getting out of water?
Until February 22nd.
Until February 22nd,
Yes,
right.
And things changed. Well, things changed earlier. I was lucky enough to get more areas added to my part of the business. So I picked up accessories, handbags, intimate apparel, and then beauty, active, outdoor, so quite a few more businesses. So I was busy, but in a good way. And then for February 22nd, got promoted. And chief merchant was something I honestly had never really thought of.
Okay.
I was working for a phenomenal chief merchant. She's still with us. She's now our president. So I had big shoes to fill. But I really told myself not to think about that, not to think about the shoes that I was filling, so to speak. We didn't lose her. She got promoted. We still have her. And I had to approach the role in my own way. And each time I've gotten larger areas or gotten promoted, I think the key is when you're a buyer, you're a generalist. You usually have a pretty broad scope of what you're working on. So you need to know when to get into detail and when to be more higher level. But the broader you are, or further away you are from buying, in my case, the more you need to be able to say, when am I high level, big picture, and when am I zooming in and when am I zooming out? When am I getting into the detail? Where is that needed? We can't micromanage. We don't want to micromanage. And when am I simply just knowing I should walk over and talk to a certain buyer or a certain individual for whatever reason? Maybe there's something going on that's worrying them, or I sense something's wrong. So we have to be very close to the business and to people, but still be able to be very big picture. We have to be strategic. We have to be thinking ahead. So a lot of what we do in my role is strategy, as well as business analysis, figuring out where to take the business today, tomorrow, in 2 years, but then also day to day. What do we do short term, midterm, and long term? And what businesses do I need to dig into, or what teams do I need to go spend more time with, either on their business or just to go check in, see how they're doing. If you sense something's not quite right, that they're stressed out or they're overloaded, it's good to just walk around and ask questions and just see how people are doing, do that temperature check.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a huge part of your job, and being a merchant, obviously, is the people component of it. Yeah, good. And then you mentioned the strategy, and that part of your job was to develop the vision and the strategy for the company. And what's on your mind as it relates to what that might look like, or how the future of the merchandise within the store might look in a couple of years versus what it looks like now, and then even take me back a couple of years, and what did it look like then?
I think we're going to continue on a path of, we want to continue to service the guest we have today. We do a good job at that, but there's an opportunity to continue to elevate, to add in some new categories, to reach a customer or a guest that maybe we're not appealing to today. So that's what we've been working on. We're going to continue to work on that. I think we've made quite a bit of progress over the last few years. I used to comp shop Bealls Outlet back in the day, primarily when I was at Burlington, and I can see how much progress was made from then even to when I came to the company 6 years ago. But I think we still have a lot more opportunity. I think the rebranding is just a big part of that. Mm-hmm. How do we say what's next for us? What categories are we not in, or we're not in a big way? What brands can we make bigger? What brands are we not doing business with? And what are some unique brands that none of our off-price competitors carry that we can take a look at adding in? Yeah. So we're looking for that uniqueness also.
Yeah, it seems fair to say that our current guest does want even more brands. I mean, yes. They want a more elevated assortment than we already have. And I know that part of where we've been has been less branded in the past. And so you're constantly pushing that forward. You're constantly trying to get new brands into the store and to increase the overall percentage of the store that the best brands and the better and best brands represent, as opposed to the good brands on the opening price point.
Absolutely.
So I know you've been working hard on that. Yes. And you've just recently landed Under Armour?
Yes, we did. I can't take credit for it, but we did.
Okay.
So we just are writing our first very large assortment of Under Armour.
Great.
So the hindrance to add, because you said it's true, we've been working on brands. So what's holding us back? And I guess one of the things has been not every brand is always willing to sell every store or every off-pricer. Right. And brand by brand, they are happy to do business with us because we're good partners, we're fair. And
we're on price now.
Right, right. Exactly.
We're becoming more and more on price.
Exactly.
And, I think that a part of that, if you look at Under Armour, for example, and I know we've been adding a number of tremendous brands, but Under Armour goes back to 1996 when they were founded. And since then, for the last, whatever that is, 27 years, Under Armour has said to us, hopefully I did that math right, they've said to us that it's crazy that people born in 1996 are 27 years. Is that right?
Is it? Yes, my son. Yeah, it's my son.
Yeah, so... you got to think that they're saying no to Bealls Outlet, Burke's Outlet, Bealls Outlet, Burke's Outlet. But do you think that the rebrand and shifting to Bealls has had any impact on national brands' willingness to sell our company?
I do. I think, like our customer, it was a misnomer.
Right.
And not everyone understood what that meant.
Right.
That maybe a piece of what we were offering, we bought fresh from the market, but was there a certain amount of carryover clearance that we transferred over from our other banner? So I absolutely think it's been in our best interest, and definitely a positive with our brand partners.
Yeah, for sure. Good. Okay, awesome. So your goal is just to continue to elevate, obviously maintaining value,
yep.
but to continue to elevate the brands within the store.
Absolutely.
I think that if people haven't checked us out in a while, honestly, that they would be pretty surprised at the brands that we do carry these days. And
I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah.
And elevate is it's tricky because sometimes it takes a little bit of time. It takes trying some things, trying them again. Sometimes the timing might not be right, or you have to test a kind of broad assortment, see what works, and then figure out your path. If you just throw a lot of product out there that's more elevated, or what we might want or we might like, it might not work.
Right.
But we are absolutely making some huge inroads. Every week I get examples of product that I'm shocked at how well we're selling it, how expensive it is, how much our guest really wants it. And it still goes back to value. It's still always a strong value or on value. And that's one thing that, off price, you're always thinking, what is the right value?
Right.
Not what the vendor is saying, not what the MSRP says, what truly is the right value. And really our guest tells us that.
Right.
So it's not always about price, but because we can sell some more elevated prices, but that value has to be right. It can't just be, all right, I'm going to take what I'm selling today and increase the retail. We know that won't work. It has to truly be higher content or better brand or whatnot, and really warrant that higher retail.
Yeah, because the value could be $6 on one item and it could be $90 on another item. That
Correct.
could still be at the right value.
Correct.
So the value, just so people understand, can very much fluctuate based on what that item is that we're selling. Yeah,
Exactly.
it doesn't mean cheap.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And even our $6 item has to be the best $6 item.
Right.
Then it can't be, a $5 item that we're pricing at $6. Doesn't sound like a big difference. It's only $1, but in the scale of business that we do, it does matter. It matters a lot. So the buyers are very good at establishing what the right values are, whether it's opening price or it's higher price retails.
Yeah. In terms of trend right now, what are you seeing out there?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, you're
Actually,
welcome.
one of the most fun parts of my role is either helping identify something that's coming up. And usually I'm not the one who's seeing it first. Usually it's a member of my team, one of our buyers, my assistant buyers who are on social media. They'll bring something up, and my job is to then help them with that. How big should it be? How fast should we move on it? So one of the things that emerged last September, whatever, it was over a year, was my junior buyers told me that there was a Barbie movie in the make.
Yep.
And they put together a trend board for their next buy that was coming up, and it's called Barbie Core. And I had no idea what they were talking about. But I'm going to show you a slide of their trend board. And those of you that don't like pink, please look away. So this is the trend board that they put together. Again, this was over a year ago. And a lot of it is, yes, the color, but just the idea of Barbie. And then from there, we identified a lot of different categories in the store. Obviously, juniors, kids apparel, toys, whatnot, all thinking, okay, this is going to be important. This is going to be big. And when the movie released, it just crushed box office numbers for the year 2023. And not only Barbie, the logo, the brand, but the color fuchsia became, this Barbie pink as we call it, became kind of prominent everywhere. And we're looking for it. We saw it in airports on luggage. We saw it starting to show up in apparel. So we really tried to pull together how much we should have. And this is a balance. You don't want to go too far on something like this, and you want it in the right areas. But as a store, we really pushed to go after it in the right amount, and kind of made some nice presentations in stores. These are some shots that stores sent. They were really excited about it. And this was just about the color. So we took the trend idea of the movie, the doll, if you will, and translated it into the color Barbie pink. And it's still on fire. Right? You have to know when to ebb and flow with these kinds of things. But so far, it hasn't slowed down.
Wow.
We see pink in Christmas trim in home decor. And the other big trend that we've been on is Western. And this, yes, influenced by the show, Western has been emerging. It's always been important in certain parts of the country. So the home team put together this trend board. And they thought at first, we thought 100 stores, mostly in our kind of Bible Belt area, this would really resonate. But we sent this trend out to the entire chain, and it's selling everywhere. So everybody is grabbing onto this. Not every single person, but every state that we're in is selling this product. So this is a shot of some of the product that we actually bought up in the left, and then a shot from one of our stores that put together a vignette of this Yellowstone product. And we also have it, this is a junior trend board, so they got on this as well. They recognize this is fun and it's a business. Destination screens are part of it, and also jewelry and accessories. And for those of you that remember silver and turquoise back in the day and feather earrings, they are back. So all of this has become just a huge business, and this has not died. We just keep evolving it and updating it and keeping it fresh. So that's really the most fun part of my job. As a chief merchant, you get to touch all areas of the store, which can seem overwhelming at times, but it's super fun and kind of help the teams navigate how much. Sometimes it's none at all. Sometimes it's how big or when to get on a trend, when to get off. But because we can pivot so quickly and be nimble, we can be fresh and new, and we can be first. And that's one of the big advantages of off-price, and that makes it super fun.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, Yellowstone is what, a Netflix or something? I don't watch Yellowstone.
It's on, I think it's on Paramount now.
Okay.
But there's two other offshoot shows.
Okay.
One is on Paramount, and I honestly don't. Yellowstone, it seems to be running all the time now.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm not exactly sure which one it's on.
I did go see Barbie with my wife, and we dressed up as Barbie and Ken, and I had people trying to take my picture at the movie theater. It was pretty embarrassing.
Okay, well, I want to tell you, when they were shooting the movie, there was some side-by-side shots of you that were going around the organization. You and Ryan Gosling. Not for nothing.
That's awesome.
And,
why do people never forward me the good stuff? That's fantastic.
And Margot Robbie has nothing on Crystal, so we were
Yeah.
like, "This is weird." They were showing me Barbie core. Yeah.
Right.
So no, we weren't going to show you that.
That's
but
funny.
since it came up
All
organically,
right, I got to see it now, guys.
But if you need, if they have a remake or whatever,
Yeah,
they
right,
can give
right,
you
right.
and Crystal a call.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So that's kind of trend, and that's kind of how trend works within the company. That is awesome.
We'll
that's
edit
fun.
all that out.
Yeah. No. We're keeping all that for sure. Lisa, tell me a little bit about market. I think that, when people think about market, it's usually there's a little bit of mystery associated with it. People aren't really sure what a merchant does and where they go and where they buy all the product and where it all comes from and how it gets to the store and all that,
Right.
and kind of like what a market visit is like.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
for us, of course, it's a little bit different. Most of our buyers are in Florida. Of course, we do have some in New York now based
Yes, we do.
full-time, and we have some in Los Angeles based full-time. But can you walk the audience through just
Sure.
real quick about like what's it like, the life of a merchant? What does that
Sure.
look like?
So we call it market, and typically that's where we go to buy goods from our vendors, and that could be a vendor showroom, it could be their headquarters, but usually it's their showroom. So market sounds like there's going to be chickens or whatever, and we're
Right.
throwing feed.
It's the
not
first thing I thought
right?
of. Yeah.
But it's not quite like that. So we usually go to market as often as we can. In
Yeah.
Florida, we're flying somewhere typically, although we do have some vendors that are Florida-based. Our new New York office has feet on the ground, boots on the ground, right in Midtown Manhattan in the fashion garment district. And our West Coast, our LA office has been out there because we have a plethora of vendors out on the West Coast, whether it's apparel or home or footwear.
Not chicken feet on the ground,
No,
but like
no
people
chicken
feet.
feet, right.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Boots on the ground.
Right, right.
Bad analogy. So we try to go at least once a month minimum in Florida in some way, shape, or form. We often have vendors come see us, but that's neither here nor there. So market, I actually have a picture of a couple of our buyers in market, just to give you an example of a couple of showrooms. So on the left is my West Coast buyer in a home showroom. So she's in market and a West Coast home vendor
Los Angeles.
in Los Angeles. And it looks like they're working on some Yellowstone product, actually.
Yeah.
And on the right is one of my junior buyers. She's one of the buyers that developed our Barbie core trend.
Oh, cool.
Coincidentally, she looks a little like Barbie also. And she's with her DMM, and they're in a showroom that's very typical, products kind of all over. And they have to be very focused, be able to edit, but also really be open and kind of be looking around at all times for new opportunities or new brands. So it is definitely a zoom in, zoom out. In the next shot, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And this isn't pretty, but it's real. Many of our showrooms absolutely look like this. This is a dress showroom. The buyer will go in. And again, you have to be able to edit. You have to have be focused on what it is you're looking for, but also be able to flip through some of these racks, because that's where the treasure hunt is often found. So it's a matter of really being open and being able to flip through a lot of product quickly, stay focused, and usually be able to get in and out of an appointment in an hour and a half to 2 hours max. So hopefully that gives a little bit of color. It's a lot of fun. When we travel, we usually have appointment after appointment.
Mm-hmm.
We're in and out of showrooms. We try to spend enough time with each appointment so that we really make it effective, and it's a good use of our time. And also so we can spend some time developing relationships with our vendors, because they really are our key vendor partners.
Right.
So we don't want to be running in, flip through racks, and run out of there and be rude and not sit down, have a conversation, and kind of check in on them as individuals as well. They are our true, business partners.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you do form relationships with people after,
Absolutely.
after years. I have a lot of people that I would call friends in the New York market, specifically having worked there at
Absolutely.
Ross and, just being in merchandising for 20 plus years, 25 years now. It's like,
Absolutely.
I'll date myself, but yeah, I mean,
too, 20 plus years.
that's important. And then going to dinner, and
Yeah,
spending time with
yeah.
them and catching up and talking about family and,
Yeah.
all the things. Just
It is a people business.
Yep.
Like almost every
Yep.
business, at the end of the day,
Yep.
our buyers have to be business savvy. They have to have an eye for product. They have to be able to identify trends and category trends quickly. But they also have to have great people skills.
Right.
They have to be able to read a room, have great emotional intelligence. And that's really important in developing those relationships. And it's important for the vendors. It's important for us, too. When they really need help on something, we try to bend as long as it still makes sense for our business and for our guest. And when we need some help or we need a favor or something's blowing out and we really need them to react quickly for us, it's those times they'll really step up. And it's
Right.
because of those relationships. And it comes from how we treat our vendors.
Right.
Again, they are true business partners and we treat them with respect.
Yep.
That goes a long way.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, you want to be the first call when somebody has a
Absolutely.
closeout deal and some crazy that that you want to be that first call.
Absolutely. And
yeah.
it's those partners that they want to speak to, that they want to have that interaction with. And there's some that they don't. It's
Right.
just an uncomfortable, unenjoyable relationship.
Right.
So it's much more fun to pick up the phone and call, hopefully me or you, our buyer, whatever,
Right.
than maybe somebody that's going to be cranky or aggressive or, just negative.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
it's really important and it helps us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Under Armour doesn't have to do business with us.
That's
they,
right.
they don't need us necessarily.
That's
So
right.
it helps to be good people, helps to be nice people, and to have a good culture and a great group of people that can connect with other people, and they're going to want to call us and want to do business with us. All right. Yeah, you had mentioned to me prior to coming in that that the values would be something that you wanted to touch on, that they've been meaningful to you and important to you,
Yes.
and this is just something that's brand new, that I've just kind of started to release to the organization, but that me, you, the rest of the senior team have been working on really for 3 years now.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it's been a long time in the making. But yeah, if you could maybe just comment on the values.
Sure. We even as a leadership team debated the word values.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons was because we recognize, a lot of companies have values. They have laminated posters that state their, whatever those might be. And as an employee, you look at them and say, well, sure, I'm not going to not sign up. They're all good words. But values are personal. So your most important values really are very personal to you as an individual. So we debated, is values the right word? And we came up with all different ideas of what we could call them instead. Most of them probably nobody but us would understand. So we ended up just saying, all right, let's call them values, but
Right.
we'll make it clear that doesn't mean we're pushing them on the organization.
Right.
That we have established, we're at 7 now, right?
Correct.
7 values that we feel are important. We're happy to share those and hopefully encourage our team to explore them, to be interested, curious, but we're not there preaching, you sign up for these 7 or you're not part of this organization, you're not part of the team. That's not the goal.
Right.
And really the work we've done has primarily been around, first and foremost, ourselves, which I truly appreciate coming from different organizations. And they've all been phenomenal companies. Culture's not always great. Some yes, some not. But typically the senior leadership team is focused more on how they can sort of fix the organization. How can they change the teams that work for them? And our focus has been, hey, let's look in the mirror first. Let's do some inward work on ourselves. And hopefully these values, again, will permeate through the organization, that there will be curiosity and interest. But first and foremost, if we become better people as senior leaders, we're going to have a better organization. And I tell you, there isn't one member of our senior leadership team that is not aligned with our values. Just good people. I have never asked for help or had a question or seen anyone who works for me ask for help or a question or want to collaborate and been turned down. Everybody's busy. Everybody has a ton on their plate, but it is always sure, let me figure out how I can create time. Let me see how I can help you. And that is truly unique. And I think a lot of that stems, again, from the senior leaders. If we exhibit that and we role model that, we're much more likely to see that throughout our organization.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well said. Yeah, so with the values, we have acceptance, accountability, authenticity, compassion, empowerment, openness, and transparency. And is there one of those that for you has been meaningful or has that stuck out more than the others?
They all are. I think they're all interrelated. I think acceptance and accountability are the two in the way we are defining them in our values. And acceptance just really being, frankly, accepting reality.
Right.
If something's tough, if there's something difficult happens, just accepting it, and yes, responding but not reacting. And I'm still working on that. Instead of something goes wrong and kind of getting into a stew or getting into a bad mental state, and accountability goes with it. That we own our own mental state. It's not no, there's no victim here. So if something negative happens, we can control our mental state. And why get all in angst or upset, especially over some of the most petty things that might happen? And I love that. It's one of the ones I'm still working on, because we're all human, and something goes wrong or something's unexpected, you kind of can slip back into the old, you could let your day be ruined over the stupidest things, and your whole mental state is then out of whack. And when you realize you really can control that, when you own it, it's very powerful. And it's freeing, because you're no longer worried about the stupidest thing. Somebody cut you off on the way to work. Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe, who knows what's going on with them. Instead of taking it personally, and I don't curse much, but cursing in the car, like, making assumptions about this horrible person and why they just did that. You just move on. Nothing happened. There was really a non-issue there, and you, again, controlling your own mental state and not letting that ruin your morning. And in the past, small things or even some bigger things could really kind of take my day sideways. And I'm really, again, still working on it. It's not easy to strike that balance of acceptance and accountability, but that's kind of how I don't know if you have a better definition of how we define it, but it's not, yes, accountable, meaning we have deadlines that we need to meet, and that the traditional sense of accountability we all sign up for, but accountability is more being accountable for our own mental state and knowing that we alone are responsible for that. We can own it, we can control it, and not blame it on what somebody else said or what somebody else did. And it is powerful.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well said. Yeah. Good stuff. Yeah, I mean, I think, for me, the acceptance thing, again, it's true. It's just accepting reality. And then, when you think about all of these words have opposites, of course, and so the opposite of acceptance is resistance. And when we resist the nature of reality, then we're just creating that mental turbulence. When we call things negative in the first place, when we're judging the present moment as negative, or we're saying that something shouldn't have happened, or that it's someone's fault or whatever, then we're creating that mental disturbance. And so owning that and having the accountability to know that we're the ones who are creating that no one else is just a huge part of self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and being able to not control your mind, but observe your mind as it takes you through its
Right.
It's stuff.
Right.
So,
and like I said, I'm still working on it. That's why I mentioned those two.
Yeah.
Transparency and openness. I think that comes a little more easily for whatever reason. I always love to hear what their ideas are, what they have to say. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I never claim to be or want to be. So I love to get a lot of different people's ideas and input. And sometimes you have somebody in a room that's very quiet, and you ask a couple questions and you get some of the most amazing ideas.
Right.
I've seen it time and again, where I see someone has something on their mind, and you try to get them to open up, and you find out they have something really insightful or really important to add. And it may change a course of action we're going to take, or a major decision. And I just think that's the fun of our organization, is having that from the senior leadership on down, is having that openness. And I have to use my favorite quote, one of my favorite quotes. We're trying to get it right, not be right. And when you are in an organization where it is a negative to go into any meeting or any situation and not have the answers, to come in with an opinion and then change your mind and say, I really thought this was the course of action, but I was wrong. I think this is a better plan. That's a negative in a lot of companies.
Right.
And I think that's why people hold on to whatever it is that their point of view is. And then you create factions. Who are you lined up with? Are you on this team? Are you aligned with this leader that wants to go in this direction? Instead of really having that open mind, whether it's a small decision or a big decision or a course of action. And, which I try to remember that. We want to be right. We want to get it right, not be right. And when you think about it that way, it really does cause you to open up and to ask people for their opinions and ask questions. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I think it's very strong for our organization too, very powerful.
Yep, absolutely. So.
It does. I know when I watched the beginning of Terry Connor's, her podcast, she said she really feels she has the best job in the company, but you know what? I have the best job in the company. So no offense to Terry Connor, but I really, but I really do.
Yeah.
I have the best job.
I disagree with both of you. But
I have the art, the science, and I have an amazing team. So
you do.
I'm really lucky.
Yeah, I've actually done your job, and I've done Terry's job, and I've done my job, and it would be hard to pick between the three of them, to be completely honest with you. I mean, being chief merchant, I was chief merchant for Bealls Florida,
Yes.
but not for Bealls. But the three jobs are a hell of a lot of fun.
Right.
I
Well,
mean,
you know
all three of
what?
them.
That's a good segue just for advice for anybody that wants to get into retail. Be open to different roles along the way.
Yeah, that's true.
You really varied yours up. You were in planning. You were in product development. I think you worked in a DC for a bit.
DC stores, managed stores,
Really had
all the
to
things.
work your way up there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Did you do something to anger your parents?
No,
or
hey,
something?
my dad started as a janitor, so
Okay.
I actually got the good end of the deal here. Yeah, I think he was nine or so years old. He was as a janitor. I just talked to my aunt last week. She was 11 years old, and she started working in the company. So
Okay.
no, I think they were happy with me,
Okay.
actually.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
yeah.
I did store line and buying. That was it.
Yeah.
Store line was really my other, and it's been invaluable. I understand better what the stores go through. I think I can communicate better.
Yep.
Visual is better than a lot of words. You're on the selling floor. You're moving product. You're working with guests. You don't have time to read long instructions and whatnot. And really, I treat the stores with immense respect because I know how hard they work.
Right.
But I never did planning. I never was in PD, although I've been exposed to it. I've had product development report to me before. But any aspect of retail that you can get your hands on is always going to help, no matter really what your end goal is, whether it's buying or planning or being a CEO. The more hats that you wear along the way, the better served you're going to be in that role.
Yeah,
so
for
that
sure.
would be one thing that would have been good for me, is to have more variety.
Right.
But I wanted to be a buyer, and I stayed in merchandising. Other than store line, that was it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I kind of figured it out and put a lot of smart people around me to fill in the gaps.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. I mean, just the more that you can work in different areas, the more you learn about how all the different areas work. You make connections within the areas with different people. You're able to
100%, yeah.
connect all the dots, and it's a win-win. And
It just makes you a more valuable leader.
Right.
When you understand you've
Right.
done the job, so you understand the challenges and any obstacles, and you just know what people are up against.
Right.
It makes a big difference.
yeah, for sure. Yep. Excellent. All right. Well, it's great to chat with you today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. I haven't forgotten anything.
No, and,
Oh,
and I
okay.
do have the best job in the company, Terry Conn. Just kidding. Just get that in again.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good. Well, it's great to have you on. Really
Thank
appreciate
you.
your time. I think this will be really helpful, beneficial for people who maybe don't exactly understand how it works, how the
Right.
product gets here.
Right.
And, so thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do it again. We'll get an update maybe in the next couple months, and we'll see what kind of crazy, awesome brands
Yes.
we've added since
And
then.
brands and the next trends.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good.
I have some ideas, but not sharing yet.
Okay. All right. We'll keep it a secret till
Yep.
the next episode.
Exactly.
Good. All
Thank
right.
you.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yep.